to you as well. Right now, the social implications, the tips in answering social implications, that's what I'm going to take you through, and how to answer some of these questions, not forgetting the keywords. Right. So this document at the end of the lesson will be available to you as well. It covers all the topics from system technologies up to solution development. So if you have any question, you can raise up your hand when I'm presenting, and I'll give you a chance to ask your question as well. Right now, we will start with, you need to know right to access and the right to privacy. Right to access information and then right to privacy. Everybody has right to one or two or your own privacy. In other words, for instance, in the computer lab, there are certain information or certain files that learners are not supposed to get access to it. For instance, the examination account or the server for keeping learners' marks are not supposed to be accessible. Please, can you mute your microphone for me? Right, sorry for that. So that is what you guys must know, the right to access to information and the right to privacy. Then we move straight to the internet attacks. We are going to look at the difference between DOS or DDoS. DOS stands for denial of service, and then DDoS, which stands for distributed denial of service. Please. So denial of service or double denial or distributed denial of service. That is whereby the computers are bombarded with huge amounts of data to slow down your computer or network. So the attackers mostly distribute a lot of data to your computer in such a way that you will not have access to your computer or network. And that's what we call the DOS. And they achieve that one by using the bot or the botnet so that they will deny you access. And sometimes it gives room to ransomware, which we are going to discuss again. So when we talk about the DOS, the key word that you must know here is that whenever the computers are bombarded with huge amounts of data in such a way that your computer becomes slow, we need to add some of these words when you are answering these questions. And then the sniffer attack is a software which normally the attackers use to read the packets of data being sent to your computer or network. Whenever you are connected to the internet or network, these attackers normally install a software. Then they will read the data that's being transferred from your computer to another computer through the network. And that's what we call a sniffer attack. So it's a software that reads the packets of data on the network. Right, now we need to also know the difference between the bot, the botnet, and then also ransomware as well as zombies. Sometimes we interchange the word zombies with bot, or we interchange zombies with maybe ransomware, so we need to know them. Right, so when we talk about bots, they are software or programs, so you need, whenever you are defining it, you need to underline or write the first word. It's a software or a program. And what do? They perform automated tasks. So the program performing automated tasks through the internet is what we call the bot. You need to always identify keywords whenever you are answering questions, and then what they cause. So these are the softwares which perform automated tasks. or repeated tasks through the internet. And when you have a group of bots, they form what we call a network. They work together and they form a network, which we call the bot network. And in short, we call it botnet. So bot network is called bot. In short, we call it botnet. So the botnet is a group of bots that perform automated tasks in such a way that they make your computer inaccessible. And we call it the botnet. So when it is only one, that's the bot that perform automated tasks. But when they form a network, we call it botnet. So take note of that. Again, we have another term called zombie. So when you talk about zombie is a computer or device. It's a computer or device that has been compromised. That's another keyword here. So a computer or device that has been compromised by malware. So any computer or device that has been compromised by malware in such a way that they are controlled remotely. They are controlled remotely. We call it zombie. So bots are software, and then zombies are devices or computers that has been compromised through the bots. So when the bots take over, and that device is called zombie in such a way that you cannot have access to it. So you must know how to differentiate between some of these terminologies. You can be given a question to differentiate between a zombie and a bot, or a zombie and maybe a ransomware. Right. Now I move straight to social engineering. So when we talk about social engineering, the key words that you must also know here is that when someone is deceived into getting sensitive information. So when you are deceived into getting sensitive information, we call it social engineering. So mostly criminals deceive people so that they can get their sensitive information like their password, their bank card, their PIN, and others. And the term used for such process is called social engineering. So please identify the keywords in defining the word social engineering. That is whereby you are deceived into getting sensitive information. Now, there are various types of social engineering. The first one is phishing. Phishing is when emails are used. When someone uses an email to deceive another person to getting sensitive information, that is what we call the phishing. So phishing, using email to deceive somebody into getting sensitive information, is called phishing. And then pharming is using a link or a website or URL to deceive somebody into getting sensitive information. So the difference between phishing and pharming is that the phishing, they use an email message. Let's say you receive an email message by saying you have your bank account is having a problem, and then they are being called from, or they are sending the message from ABSA. So you may send your details so that they can fix your account for you. If they use an email to deceive you so that they can get your sensitive information, and that is what's called phishing. But if you get a link that click here and then you win 20,000, and you click and that link takes your sensitive information, then that is what we call the pharming. So the pharming, they use a link, or they use a website, or they use URL into getting sensitive information. Right. And then the next one is clickjacking. Clickjacking. When we talk about clickjacking, we are talking about concealed link. or a hidden link. The difference between clickjacking and farming is that farming, the link is not hidden. You see the link that click here and then you win 20,000 or something. So you saw the link. But then for clickjacking, the link is hidden. You don't see the link, and that's what for the clickjacking. So when it's having a concealed link or hidden link to deceive you into getting sensitive information, that is called clickjacking. And then the smishing is when they use SMS to deceive you into getting sensitive information. Right. So using SMS to get information from someone by deceiving the person is called smishing. And then baiting, depending on one's curiosity into getting sensitive information. What do you mean by depending on somebody's curiosity? Let's say they send a message to you by saying, with that message, if maybe you you click on it or you answer that message, you are going to be given 10,000. And then after that, they will give another amount. So you want to see what will happen when you respond to that message. And because you are curious, and then you are being deceived into getting sensitive information. And that's what we call the baiting. So the baiting, they work by, it can even be on a phone, and then they call you, then you are curious, then you respond to their demand, and then they get your sensitive information. And that is baiting. Then the pretexting is using fake identity to deceive someone. Into getting sensitive information. So fake identity, we call it pretexting. Pretexting, like for instance, somebody might call you or send an email faking their identity that they are working at the Department of Education, and they would like to give you free marks for CAT. So you must send your details or send your information or something, and then at the end of the day, they deceive you in getting your information, and that is what we call pretexting. They fake an identity to deceive somebody into getting sensitive information. So basically, these types of social engineering, you should know how to define it, and all of them, the prevention is the same. You must also know how to prevent them as well. You don't have to always believe it. You must find or do your research, and then you don't have to be clicking on unknown links or other things. You don't have to respond to messages that you don't believe that is coming from the right source. You must always check if it is email, where it is coming from, whether it's a legitimate sender's address or not. So all of them, the way you prevent some of these criminal into deceiving you is the same thing. You don't have to always believe in them. So you have to know when to respond to such message. Right. Any questions so far? If you have any question, you may ask so far before I proceed. If you have any question regarding these topics that we have covered so far, the social engineering, the difference between zombie, the botnet, the bot, and then the ransomware. Yeah, I think I skipped ransomware. Ransomware is a type of malware that blocks you access to your computer system, and then they demand money. I've highlighted the keyword. It's a malware. So if it is too much, you get a mark for malware. And what do? They block you access to the computer system, and then they demand money from you. Right. So those are the keywords that are very important when you're answering such type of question. Any question? Right. If there's no question, let's proceed. Now, You must also know the computer crimes and then the computer fraud when we talk about the social implications. Now, the computer crimes, some of them are stealing hardware and software, like for instance, stealing computer systems, stealing computer parts from the lab, or stealing somebody's tablet. All these are crimes that are related to computers. Now, when we talk about stealing of hardware, how do we protect them? Sometimes they ask you some of these questions, how you can protect your computer hardware or devices from being stolen. And some of these preventive measures are listed here. You can chain them or put them in cabinet, install security doors, put alarm systems, or you can fix the computers with bolts, as you can see in some of the computer labs. And then you can also ensure that there's a biometric access to places like the server room. The server room, you must have biometric access so that it will open the doors for you. So these and many more, you must know at least 2 or 3. In most cases, CAT theory, you don't ask more than 3 items. So normally it's 2 or 3. So you have to target 2 or you target 3. Let's say this one, you can pick biometric access or the alarm systems so that whenever they ask such type of questions, you know how to answer them. Right. Again, we move straight to protecting software. Stealing of software and information. It can be in different forms. So I'm going to put different forms. Forms of stealing different forms of stealing software. Right. Software can be stolen in different ways. One, let's say deleting somebody's work, deleting or uninstalling. Uninstalling software without the person's knowledge. Right. Let's say somebody gives you his or her laptop to use. You borrow somebody's laptop, then you remove the software, or you borrow somebody's phone, and then you delete a certain application. And you know some of these software, they cost a lot to purchase them. So you bought the software and somebody deliberately delete your software. That is stealing of software. Again, if you borrow somebody your CD, which contains a software, and then the person breaks it or maybe lose it or deliberately, that is also stealing of software. And information, someone's information, logging into the person's account and then deleting the person's, let's say, pet. Somebody knows your password, logs into your computer, and then delete your pet. It's also stealing of software and then information. So all these may come in different forms. It's not necessary pirating. Pirating is also another one. Piracy is also another one, another form of stealing of software, deleting or uninstalling. So when you get a question that says list maybe 2 or 3 ways of stealing information or software. So some of these, you don't only have to think about piracy. There are several ways. That means you are denying someone to use his or her software or denying somebody of his information. Now, in all this, how do we prevent some of these things? You can prevent them by ensuring a backup policy. So you can prevent them by putting backup policies or putting security access or password. Because when you have password on your computer, nobody can easily get into your computer and delete your information or your software. Or you can also have a 2-factor authentication so that if someone tries to log into your system you'll get a notification like approve it or the one-time PIN so that you will not give access to such a person. So you must know at least 2 ways of protecting software from being stolen, and then 2 ways of protecting hardware from also being stolen. Right, we also have identity theft, stealing someone's identity, bandwidth theft, stealing Wi-Fi password or somebody's data. And this one can also come in different ways. Like for instance, if you ask me to give you my hotspot password and I borrowed you, I logged in for you. Because you asked to do a particular job or you asked to do work in a certain period of time. Then the next day, I activate my hotspot, then still you are connected to it. Without my knowledge, you are stealing my bandwidth. So this one can also come in different ways, which you need to know that as well. And stealing of time and services. In most cases, we steal our time when you are supposed to use the computer period for something, you'll be doing your own personal work. Is also stealing of time and services. So all these, you must know how to define it. They may come in different ways, define it, or how can you prevent such measures. Right. Now, another form of computer crime, that's the hoax, which is the fake messages or chain messages being sent, and then the scam, deceiving somebody to get money, and then adware, advertising software. So all these are keywords which when you are defining, you can also expand it. Advertising software, and then pop-ups, keylogger. Also, we discussed it in our previous lessons. We talk about the keyloggers also. Those are the softwares that record one's keystrokes. I think it's part of my document here, which I will share it with you at the end of this lesson. Yeah, I made mention of here. That's keylogger is a malware or physical device that records keystroke. So keylogger can be a malware or it can be a physical device that will record the way you type in such a way that they would steal your sensitive information. Right. And then how to prevent keyloggers also by updating regularly or using anti-malware or avoiding unknown websites or devices. So take note of these criminal activities or the computer crimes. Right. How do we protect ourselves against online threats or online crimes? You can also take at least 2 or 3. The easier one that I believe you can always remember, installing antivirus or anti-malware. So when you say anti-malware, you can also say antivirus. Or updating your software or installing firewall. So these ones are easier to remember. So firewall can be used to prevent oneself against online threats, VPN as well, or installing antivirus software, updating your software, having digital signatures or digital certificate as well. So the easier one that you can easily remember are these: antivirus, updating software, and also firewall. Like I said, you must always stick to at least 2 points or 3 points that will save you. Right. Any question about this? Any question? I have detailed notes also here, which I will share with you. The detailed notes about the advantages and disadvantages about these crimes and other things. I will share them also if you want to go through them. Then again, I will also share with you the questions about every topic, summarized questions, which I pick from different past papers. and how you must answer them. So I put a question and then the answer as well. So you'll get them together with this document. And then also there's a summarized past papers from 2018 up to 2022, and then also from 2016 to 2017. So you can pick them and then answer. Like for instance, this question is November 2022. What's the difference between a bot and a zombie? We just discussed it. And then by picking the keywords, explain why users may realize when they are victims of spoofing attack. And then I will talk about spoofing also. Give 2 reasons why DDoS attacks are harmful. In other words, what did they cause? The effect of DDoS. And then also discuss the risk of posting videos that you made on social media platforms like TikTok. Give 2 ways to reduce the risk of your computer getting infected by virus, other than installing programs or antivirus. Give 2 examples of how artificial intelligence can be useful in our school environment. So for the 10 marks, they are always centered around the topic that we have discussed. And then when you also go through, that is 2011, 2021. This is 2022 June question paper. Give an example of a product that is considered to be intellectual property. Give 2 guidelines that can be found in the school's BYOD policy. I talk about BYOD policy also in our new terminologies. State or suggest 2 ways in which to prevent computer hardware theft in schools. How to prevent, we just discussed it. Explain 2 ways to protect your privacy when using the internet through a public hotspot. And then give 1 reason why some companies may not allow their employees to telecommute. Telecommute meaning that you work from home. So why would the employees not allow you to do that? Or your companies not allow you to do that? Discuss 2 negative effects a user can experience if he or she overuse social media that attack. So basically, you follow these, and these questions also, the memos are given up. I will share them as well with you, and then you know how to answer these questions. Right. Now, is there any question before we move to new terminology? If there's any question about what we have discussed so far, you can ask. Right. If there's no question, we will go straight to new terminology. Or before that, we'll also look at the PET question. Mostly they ask questions about PET, whereby they test your knowledge about PET, that's information management. And how do you approach such type of question? You must know from your PET phase 1 up to phase 3, all the things that you have been doing, especially if you did the PET very well. Phase 1, you started with a task definition, which comprises stating the problem, why you are doing the investigation, how you are going to conduct the investigation, the method or the steps that you use to conduct the investigation, and then also searching for information from various sources of information and evaluating the website sources through the authority, currency, accuracy, and objectivity. So you must know all they can ask you questions on that. Then you must know how to explain them as well. And then from there, phase 2, whereby you have to create a questionnaire, which can be closed-ended questionnaire or open-ended questionnaire. Then using electronic forms or online survey, you must know the advantages of using electronic forms over using a questionnaire that is paper-based. Again, the analysis in spreadsheet and then the database, they can also ask you questions on that. Then report writing, plagiarism, and then the report structure, the citations and all those things, they can ask you questions also like that. So basically, the information management will be centered around the PET. So you have to go through the steps, even your PET document, go through how to do them, then you'll be able to answer such questions. Then the solution development, whereby you'll be tested about Microsoft Word, spreadsheet, database, and HTML. With this, if you have to apply whatever that you do in practical, let's say when you are doing Microsoft Word, like the paragraphs, the rulers, the font, the layout, all those, they can ask you questions on that. And then the spreadsheet functions, how to maybe make changes in spreadsheet functions and what each function does, they can ask you question on it. And then the difference between the database and then the spreadsheet. Then the database also regarding validation rule, input mask, field size, and then the format, they can ask you question also. And then
Windows operating system in a land, you don't have to buy a third party.
For the HTML also, they can ask you question on HTML, whereby they can give you an HTML format. Maybe you have to make changes to it or certain text. So basically, the solution development, how you did your PET or your practicals, you are applying your knowledge in practical to solve these questions. So you have to revisit your practical knowledge, and then you'll be able to answer some of these questions. And I will also advise you to solve questions using the previous question paper that I just displayed here, or the question and answers, so that you know the kind of question that they normally ask. Right. Any question, then we move straight to new terminology. Is there any question? Right. If there's no question, let's move straight to new terminology. From our examination guideline, these new terminologies are very important as they ask questions every year. Sometimes you can get 2 or 3, sometimes you can even get 5 new terminologies questions, the definition or the advantages and disadvantages of that new terminology. Some of them are not new as we speak because it has been there for long. For instance, the multi-touch screen. Multi-touch screen is a type of feature of a screen whereby you can capture or register more than one point of contact at the same time. And in most cases, we use multi-touch screen for zooming in, zoom in or zoom out, or to stretch a paper, a picture. Let's say you have a picture, you want to zoom in or you zoom out. That is the multi-touch screen. Right. And then HDMI, which is high definition multimedia interface, which normally carries both video and audio signals. In most cases, they will ask you the advantages of HDMI over VGA. So the HDMI provides both video and then audio signals, whereby the VGA only gives the visual signal. And again, HDMI gives a high quality video as compared to the VGA. In other words, they give a high resolution. So when you are comparing the high resolution, and then they also give both video and then audio. So at least these two, you remember them when you are giving why you opt for HDMI instead of VGA. It gives a high resolution, and then it also gives both video and then audio. Right. Then the 3D printer, the definitions of 3D printer also. They create 3D objects by adding successive layers on top of each other. So basically, the keywords are the one that I've highlighted. They give a three-dimensional object. Or if you cannot remember three-dimensional, you just say 3D. And I believe everybody remembers 3D. 3D object. How do they create a 3D object? By adding successive layers on top of each other. So these are the definitions, what I've highlighted here. So if you write this one, you get a full mark. Now, application of 3D printer also, clothing, small buildings, and others, vehicle parts. So all these are the applications of 3D printer, which you must also know at least two of them. Then the standards for wireless communication in mobile devices, which we have the 5G and then the 6G or the 4G, which gives a faster speed connectivity, mostly for the mobile devices. And then the 802.11 ABGN. This one, you need to only know the definition. That is, it gives a Wi-Fi connectivity. It's a standard for Wi-Fi connectivity. You don't need to know all these ones, the A, the B, the G, and then the N, the speed. As the examination guidelines stipulate that learners will not be examined to know these. All that they need to know is the 11, which refers to the Wi-Fi connectivity. And then we also have the NFC, near field communication. This near field communication allows devices to connect wirelessly. So here the keywords here, devices connected wirelessly. How do they connect wirelessly? By touching them together. So even these three keywords that are in red font, you get a full mark. So the devices connecting wirelessly by touching them together. Right. And we have so many examples of NFC applications. Tap to pay or tap to go, the one that we normally use our card to tap, they use the NFC to also transfer files. And also in most of the phones, they have the NFC that allows us to pay something, the Apple Pay and others. If Apple Pay, you don't have the NFC, you will not be able to pay wirelessly. And you know how they are being paid. If you are far, it will not work. It should be close to each other, or you tap it before it can connect. So that's the application of NFC. Right, the video communication, also the platforms that we use to make video calls through internet. Like for instance, Zoom, Microsoft Teams that we are doing now, we are using now, Google Meet, Skype, and the rest. They are video communication platforms. And then the URL shortener, you must also know this is a tool or service. So the first keyword is a tool or service. What do? They convert long URL into a shorter version. So whenever you are studying these terminologies, and identify the keyword like this one, a tool which convert long URL into a shorter version. Now, sometimes they can give you a question whereby they ask you what's the function of a website like tinyurl.com. Then you know that it's part of the URL shortener. Why, or what are the functions, or what are the advantages of using URL shortener? When you shorten this URL, it makes it easier to remember or easier to type out. So let's say a long URL and then you want to go to that website. It's very easy to type it on your mobile device browser, or to also remember them. That's the essence of having this URL shortener. Right, then IoT, Internet of Things, whereby devices are connected to each other through internet. So the shorter definition is devices connected to each other. Devices connected to one another through internet. And that's IoT. So many devices are these days connected to each other through internet. For instance, we have devices like the smart TVs. We also have devices like washing machines being connected to internet. And that is what we call the IoT. And we also have the autonomous vehicles, which sometimes we call self-driving cars, or we call it driverless cars, which is a vehicle that can sense its environment. So they can sense, they have a sensor that senses its environment without or with little or no human input. They can sense their environment and move safely with little or sometimes without anybody's input. And that's what we call the autonomous vehicle. That's the easier way to define it. A vehicle that can sense its environment with little or no input from human beings. Right. And we also have the drone technology. This autonomous vehicle, they can ask you also about the advantages and why people would not like to have autonomous vehicle. Like now, if I ask you, why will you not buy a vehicle of such nature? If I can ask anyone such question, what are the disadvantages of having autonomous vehicles? Why will you not advise your parents or yourself if you have money and that you will not buy this type of vehicle? Can somebody unmute and answer me that question? Female. Or anyone, why will you not buy autonomous vehicle? Any answer? A car that you don't need anybody to drive, like you stay in that car and then it will drive you around wherever that you go. Why would you not buy such car? All right, I will leave it for you to answer that for me, since nobody wants to take charge. Now, one reason is the trust issues. Sometimes you can have trust issues. You might be thinking that, hey, this car might crash or accident can also happen. So the trust issues and accident can also happen if, let's say, the technologies being used are having what do you call malware, or they are having bug. If there are some bugs in it, it's going to have an accident as well. Or maybe the destination, it used those, it sends their environment, so like the GPS. So let's say you are going somewhere, you are going to Freiburg or you are going to Lichtenberg, and then now it uses GPS and it's having problem with the bug, this software, then you remember that by the time you realize, it will take you to Joburg. So those are some of the disadvantages of having these autonomous vehicles. Right, now the drone technology. Also, you should know what a drone is, which we normally call it flying robot, which can be controlled remotely. So that's another word here, flying robot that can be controlled remotely. Right, and drone technology can be used in various places like in agriculture system, photography, game ranging, parcel delivery, or even sending blood in our health sector from one hospital to another hospital. You can use drone to send blood to another hospital as well. So these are the applications of drone technologies in various sectors. You can also be given a question of that nature. Then the next topic is wearable devices and technologies. Those are the devices that we wear as accessories or part of our clothing, like the smartwatches, fitness or health trackers, smart glasses, and the rest. So these devices are connected to network or internet, and then they can take our vitals or some of our health or fitness details. So that's the wearable devices and technologies. And then our next terminology is shaping, which sometimes we call it network tuning. So the shaping is whereby certain internet services, for instance, emails. So when certain internet services are given preferences than others, then we call it shaping. And when all internet services are given the same preferences, then we call it unshaping. So unshaping is they have equal preferences. In other words, in terms of speed, when you go to YouTube, the speed will be the same. And then when you also go to email browsing, the speed will be the same. And that's what we call shaping. And then throttling, what we normally call it network policing. This one, the ISP, is the one that slows down your internet connection. The ISP slow down your internet connection speed, and then they give it to other people. So this is what we call the throttling. Then you must also know, why do they do throttling? Sometimes they can ask you this question: why do ISPs also throttle people? You have to know them as well. Remember, they depend on AUP, acceptable user policy. So that will be the one that will determine whether they should slow down your internet connectivity or not. Right, then the geotagging, whereby geographical positions like the place where you took the pictures, the time, and others are added to the metadata. So the geographical position and then the geographical information are added to your metadata. And when we talk about the metadata, metadata is additional information of a file. So the metadata is additional information of a file. So when these geographical information are added to a picture that you took, then we call the geotagging. Clickjacking, we discussed it. They are saying whereby criminals trick people by using a hidden link. And then also ransomware, we discuss it now. It's a malware that blocks your access to your computer system. And then you have to pay some money, which is called ransom, before they unblock for you. And ransomware, criminals normally use Bitcoins to achieve these ransomware. So take note of that. Now, screen lock pattern. That's a way of locking your device or unlocking your device. So these ones are old terminology as well, but it's in our examination guideline. And authentication, that's two-factor authentication, which includes the OTP, the approve it messages. And these authentications prevent unauthorized access to your information or to your email or to your account. So they normally send you SMS, which is one-time PIN, or there's a software called Approve It that you have to give an approval before the account can be opened for you. Then crowdfunding. This is whereby a single idea are funded by multiple donations online. So the keywords have been underlined here. A single idea funded by multiple donations online. An example of crowdfunding is Kickstarter. So they can also give you a question by saying, give an advantage of a website like a Kickstarter.com to the business or to the person donating. So you need to know them as well, the applications of these terminologies. Then BYOD, bring your own device. Like we said, whereby employees are allowed to bring their own device in order to connect to the network. So these are the keywords that have been underlined. Employees or students or learners bringing their own mobile devices in order to get access to the school's network or the company's network. So that's the definition of BYOD. Now, also you must know why do you have to do BYOD, or what are the advantages of having BYOD and what are the disadvantages of having BYOD as well. You must know them. These days, they will not ask you to define the term BYOD, but they can ask you to give the reason why the schools shouldn't allow BYOD to be implemented in their school policy, or why should the school allow BYOD to be implemented in their school policy. So those are the advantages and disadvantages. And then again, we move straight to big data. The easier way to define this terminology is large structured and unstructured data set. So this one is very important, the first part. Large structured and unstructured data set. What do we do with that data set? Analyze. They are analyzed to reveal trends. Right, so these are the keywords when you are defining big data. It's a very large structured and unstructured data set that are analyzed in order to reveal trends. So in most cases, there are some challenges there because they are large data set. So maybe there are no big storage to keep those data set, and then also query as well as visualization. So these are some of the challenges of having these big data, which you must know them, at least two of them. And then cryptocurrency, a simple definition like Bitcoin and then Luno is the form of virtual currency or digital currency. Then the cryptocurrencies can be exchanged for other currencies and products. In some places, they even have the Visa cards that are linked to cryptocurrency accounts. So there are a number of cryptocurrencies, not only Bitcoin and Luno, there are a number of them. So you must know the definition of it, and then the advantages of cryptocurrency. For instance, there are no bank charges when you're using cryptocurrency. Again, with the cryptocurrencies, the prices are not being controlled by central banks also. And again, when you are using cryptocurrency, they might not also know or take control of your account. It's more secured as well. But the disadvantages are that criminals are using cryptocurrency these days, like for ransomware. They use it because they know that when they use their bank accounts, you can trace it. Because here you cannot trace it, the criminals are taking advantage and using cryptocurrency to achieve their criminal activities online. And then also e-learning. E-learning and M-learning, they are different things. The e-learning is whereby you use computer to take part in the learning and teaching process. Like what we are doing now is e-learning. Let's say you are staying at home and then I'm at school, then I teach you, you join the lesson. It's part of e-learning. You must be part, you must join the lesson, right? Whereby you'll be taught and then you also learn from it. But the M-learning, you don't necessarily have to join online. That one is whereby learning or training is being done through using mobile devices. The M-learning, you can have your tablet, we load all the information there, we load your notes on your tablet. You don't necessarily have to connect to internet before you can achieve the M-learning. But in e-learning, you need to be online or to be part of it so that you join the lesson. So basically, that's the difference between M-learning and then the e-learning. Right. Then the VR, the definition of VR is using a technology to create a 3D simulation as if you are in the physical world or physical way. So I've changed the font for the keywords here. Creating a simulation of 3D environment. You have to add the environment to it. 3D environment by a person in such a way that, or as if you are in a physical world. And that is what we call the VR. So the VR, you achieve that by using certain devices like the helmet or the gloves that are fitted with a sensor. So that is how we use the VR. So you must know the definition and some of the devices that will allow you to use the VR, and also the advantages of VR and then the disadvantages of VR. They keep on asking these questions. The advantages, like the 3D simulations, you will have a lot of fun and you'll be somewhere and then you'll be watching some simulations as if you are there. But then the disadvantages are that you can have motion sickness. Sometimes you can have even headache because you put a helmet on your head for a long time. So you must know also at least two disadvantages and then advantages of VR. Then sometimes they ask you to also differentiate between VR and then AR. The difference is that for the AR, it takes the real world and then it adds an object like graphics into it. So the adding part is what we call the augmented. Augmented is the same as what? Adding. So they take the world, the physical world, and then add objects into it within the real world. And that is what we call the AR. So that's the difference between AR and then VR. The VR creates a 3D simulation, and then the AR takes the physical world and then it adds objects into it. Then the AI, artificial intelligence, which is simulation of human intelligence in machines. So they are the simulations of human intelligence in various machines so that they are programmed in such a way that they are like human beings or they do the activities of the human action. And that's what we call the AI. Now, 4IR, which is the fourth industrial revolution. That's what combines the robotics, the IoTs, the 3D printing, genetic engineering, quantum computing, and other technologies like AI. So, like last year question paper, learners were asked, give examples of 4IR. So these are the examples, the IoT, the robotics, the 3D printing, the genetic engineering, quantum computing, and other intelligence like the AI. They are part of the fourth industrial revolution. So you must take note if you're asked to give examples of 4IR. And then the 5IR is moving alongside the 4IR. And then they take the advantage of the 4IR, then they focus back on the human nature. So in another way, the 4IR are built upon so that they can now take back on human activity. And that's what we call the fifth industrial revolution. Then lastly, the blockchain is a sequence of blocks. That's the first mark, or you can say group of transactions, whichever way, that are chained together and distributed among the users. So that's the definition of blockchain. And blockchain applications and in different ways. Cryptocurrency use blockchain also, and other activities. There are so many group of transactions that are put together and distributed among different users. Right. So basically, these are the terminologies that one needs to know regarding CAT paper 2. You have to know the definitions, how they are being implemented, their merit and demerit, or the disadvantages and advantages. You need to know them. And I will urge you to go through the question papers as well. Then you'll be able to answer most of our questions. Right. So these documents will be shared to you. The question and answer I prepared from different question papers. When you study the notes or these tips, you can as well go through them. At least to highlight at least 2 of them, the question and answer, you'll be able to solve all the questions. I will share them with you, and also you can go through this lesson recording, and then you answer questions as well. Is there any question from you? So I believe we have captured almost all the topics. Then this guideline here, like my other colleague started, he covered all these, the concept, the data and everything. So I will share this also, like what you need to know, like the outline before you write the examination. Any question from anyone? Right. If there's no question, I think we will bring our lesson to an end today. And I wish you all the best. All the documents are shared, which I will send the links also. You will find them when you go there. The links will be there. You can watch these recordings as well.
What is social data?
Pardon? Montana?
What is social data?
Right, the social data, like the question that came last for the prep, everybody said the big data and then the social data. Like when you're on a social network, all forms of data that are being gathered there. Like for instance, you go to Facebook or you go to Instagram, there are a lot of data there that they gather from so many people. And even these days, Meta is also using that data, and then they analyze. That's why you're able to search for information. So basically, the social data are the data set that are being gathered through our social network. And then the AIs are also using that one to gather and then also analyze such information. And then the big data, that data set is not on the social media. That big data set are that a structured data set that are being developed that one can get by the companies, and then they can analyze to review the trend. So basically, like the question that came in our prep, to differentiate between the big data and social data. That's the difference. Do you understand?
Yes, yes.
Montana, you are fine with that?
Yes, I'm fine with that. Thanks.
All right, sure. Any other question?
What is social engineering?
Social engineering, like I discussed it here, is a form of criminal activities whereby people deceive somebody into getting sensitive information. Like for instance, if I ask you to click on a certain link so that you win an amount of 1 million, then at the end of the day, you don't win that 1 million, then I get your information. like your password or your PIN, your bank card, then that is what we call the social engineering. So the term given to a situation whereby people are deceived into getting sensitive information is called social engineering. So they are here. I discussed it earlier on here. Is it social engineering, whereby people are tricked or deceived into getting sensitive information. And examples of social engineering are phishing, farming. We also have clickjacking, smishing, baiting, and pretexting. You can be given a question to differentiate between two of them or explain one example of social engineering. Then I have also made them easier here. When you talk about pretexting, that's a fake identity, which is part of social engineering. Faking somebody's identity to deceive somebody into getting sensitive information, pretexting. Faking or depending on one's curiosity into deceiving somebody into getting sensitive information, which is baiting. Smishing, using SMS to deceive somebody into getting sensitive information. Clickjacking, using a hidden link into deceiving someone so that you can get sensitive information. And then farming is using a link or a website or a URL in order to get sensitive information. And then finally, phishing, using an email message to deceive someone into getting sensitive information. And that is what we call the social engineering. So all these are part of social engineering. And then, like another question that I saw here, which is spoofing, which is forging email header, to deceive someone into getting sensitive information. Like, for instance, they can forge an email header. You'll be thinking it's coming from your principal. Let's say you receive a message, and then they will change the header, the sender address, and then they send a message to you to deceive you into getting sensitive information. And that is spoofing. This is email header for spoofing. And then the phishing is using email message. So you must take note. Sometimes for the multiple choice, they will bring phishing and at the same time bring spoofing. Don't be deceived. This one is using email messages, and this one forging email header. So basically, these are the examples of social engineering. Any question? Right. If there's no question, we will bring our discussion to an end. Like I said, I will share this with Osnaniki and then she'll give it to you guys. Go through the notes, the question and answer, previous question papers, all the theory questions sampled, and then the memos, and then this one, question and answer. You pick at least two of them. You pick at least two of them, and I group them also according to information management, according to system technology, network, and others. So you go through them, and then also the notes. Then I believe on Tuesday, you'll be able to answer the question. Please don't forget keywords. They are very important. That's why I've highlighted most of the keywords here. You stick to the keyword. Even if you write a keyword and then others, you write your own sentences. We only look for the keyword. That is what is important. If you are marking and then you don't find a keyword, you cannot award mark. So please don't forget keyword and do not leave empty spaces. Answer every question. Don't leave empty spaces. And I wish you all the best. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.